Welcome to the Mindful Mama podcast, where we navigate controversial topics, deep dive into life-changing stories, and engage in meaningful conversation. Join us in embracing the beauty of mindful motherhood. I'm your host, Corinne Adele. Hello, and welcome back to the Mindful Mama podcast. Today, we have Andrea on as a guest, and I am super excited for this conversation and just everything that she is doing and supporting when it comes to mother baby, all of the insane tactics from, the baby industry and kind of, what their goals seem to be as far as like separating mother babies. So Andrea, go ahead and give our audience just a quick overview of who you are and everything you're passionate about.
Hi, I'm Andrea, and my Instagram handle is @instinctualmothering, and I'm a lactation counselor, and I'm a mom of two in upstate New York here. I started helping moms breastfeed. When I first became a mom, I felt so much anxiety about like all the different voices that were yelling at me about what I should and shouldn't do with breastfeeding. So that's why I started my account. And since then, we've kind of created a very large community. So what ended up happening was my co-partner, Natasha, my co-founder of Radical Moms Union, Natasha, reached out to me wanting to start a Substack just about like the different issues that we were talking about, like the forces that get in the way of mother baby, like you were saying, sleep training, different like baby gear things, formula marketing, daycare and childcare, and lack of paid maternity leave and all that stuff. So we started writing about that on Substack, and then we actually started like activism in terms of predatory formula advertising. And so yeah, I love the community that we've developed, and I love helping moms. Breastfeeding kind of fits in there with like instinctual motherhood, just because you do have to like trust your body. So that was my problem. Like I didn't know how to like trust my instincts or trust my body, and obviously that starts with pregnancy and birth. That's why I reached out to you, because I know you're kind of more on the crunchy side. You had home births and stuff. I feel like the distrust is really started right in pregnancy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the biggest things that I advocate for on my platform is like going back to our own motherly intuition and like drowning out all of the noise, because the noise is what gives us anxiety and the noise is what gives us confusion. But if we are to just like shut everything off and go within ourselves, we're literally designed to know how to take care of our babies. And of course, that's not to say that people like lactation consultants and counselors and people who are educated can't give you advice. But a lot of the times it's like us moms, like we know, but we have
Yeah.
to allow ourselves to get to that place of knowing. So I kind of want to know a little bit more about your Back Off Bobby, right? Back Off Bobby
Yeah.
campaign. So
Yeah.
I saw it on Instagram. I love it. And just side note, because I'm an influencer, I get brands reaching out to me wanting me to do deals with them. And Bobby is one of the formula brands that has reached out to me, offering me thousands of dollars to promote their formula.
Oh my
They're not
God, you gotta spill that tea. You gotta tell us how much.
Well, there's not much tea because I don't respond. I just read the
Oh,
email and I'm like, no, thank you, because that's never gonna be me. They have reached out to me. By Heart has reached out to me, and then oh goodness, what is the new? There's one
Penny
goat
Mill or
Penny Mill.
Bubs.
Yes, that one just launched in the U.S. like earlier this year, and they reached out to me as well. And yeah, I mean, all of it is super predatory. So yeah, just go into that entire campaign because that really piques my interest. It's something that I'm super passionate about. I don't know if you've ever seen the documentary. I think it's called The Milky Way.
Oh yeah.
It
Yeah.
talks about this and
Yes.
how, like, technically it's illegal, to be
Yeah.
advertising formula, yet
Well, it's supposed to be illegal, but it's not in the US.
okay.
Yeah, so like I said, with Radical Moms Union, we were always kind of writing about like these corporate forces that get in the way of mother baby.
Mhm.
And we don't want it to ever be like, you know, formula moms versus breastfeeding moms. Like we
Right.
know that that formula is needed for some
Mhm.
people. There's a lot of forces that are working against moms breastfeeding, obviously, in this country. And predatory formula marketing is like one of those things. And I'm so glad that you had me on, like with you being an influencer, because it's just a perfect illustration of the tactics that they use.
Yeah.
So the thing with Bobby started with um, their their campaign in like 2021. They first came out with this big newspaper spread during World Breastfeeding Week,
Of
mind
course.
you,
Of
um,
course.
in the New York Times, and it had some, you know, people represented that you would consider to be like the extremes of needing formula, you know, like a surrogate, a dad that used a surrogate, gay dads that use surrogate,
Mhm.
a mom with breast cancer, and it said, how is breastfeeding going, with the breast crossed out. So they came like right out of the gate with advertising that targets breastfeeding, and actually targets breastfeeding moms, because when they first came out, they they advertised that they were like the European
Mhm.
type of formula, because you know, crunchy moms and people in the crunchy mom circle would always get these formulas from like Europe.
Yep.
That was always the one like recommended when people asked on like crunchy mom groups that I remember being in.
Right. And
Uh,
even as a first time mom, my goal was to breastfeed, but even I purchased
yeah,
European formula to have on hand just in case. And
yeah. So like they came out with that, and when I first saw it, I was like, oh cool, like here's an American brand that's doing the thing, so we don't have to order from these weird websites to get like German formula or whatever.
middleman websites, yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So that's what they went with at first. So right away they are already targeting like that crunchier mom, like that cares like so much about getting like the best high quality. So in that way, if they can't breastfeed, they're going to jump right to their formula because they've been advertising that it's the best and it's superior or whatnot. Right out of the gate, they're just kind of predatory. And I noticed this, and I noticed kind of continued targets with their marketing around breastfeeding and mental health, and a lot of influencer promotion, like with Ashley Graham, who they got Ashley Graham, who's like a plus size model, if you don't know who she is, on like a billboard in New York City. They liked to really talk about how breastfeeding is bad for your mental health,
Yeah.
and that, you know, formula is going to fix everything. And they also talk about combo feeding a lot. So
Mm.
I just started noticing all these things. So with combo feeding, I think that's how they get a lot of people, especially moms who don't really feel that strongly about breastfeeding, or they're just, like you said, buying formula just in case.
Yep.
So they advertise combo feeding, which for me, I always say any amount of breast milk is great, I think. And I always encourage, like, I have clients who don't make enough milk, and I affirm their decision to keep pumping, because a lot of people are like, why are they pumping
Right.
for to get whatever 5 ounces a day? But I've had clients that do that, and they're like, no,
Yes.
like, even 5 ounces a day of breast milk is good. And like, I think that's amazing. Like, I love that combo feeding, but I think formula companies, especially Bobby, have like jumped on this bandwagon of, oh, combo feeding's so great. Why don't you like voluntarily combo feed? Like, not the moms who need formula to combo
Right.
feed, not them, but oh, here's how it makes it easier. And these are like old playbook formula advertising strategies. Like, these have been going on for ages. Like, we looked at advertisements from the 50s, and it's always like, oh, dad can help,
Yeah.
or
Dad's
this is,
bonding.
yeah, dad's bonding, and this is for the career woman. Like in the 60s and 70s, they had advertisements like that, but it's still sort of like that. So they're still kind of using these same tropes to promote stuff like combo feeding, and saying that it's for dad for bonding, selling sleep, like, oh, you're going to get so much extra sleep if you combo feed since dad can feed a bottle. But they
Right.
don't explain the logistics around breastfeeding when you don't pump or remove milk
Right.
during a
Replace
period
the
of
feed,
time. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like if
Then,
you have a bottle feed, then you need to be replacing that feed with a pump.
yes. Yes, exactly. So they don't really disclose that and they make it seem like you can just go on and off, like feed a bottle here, breastfeed here. And some people do that and they don't necessarily get upset when their breastfeeding journey ends at like 6 months or 9 months, which is fine. A lot of my clients want like longer
Mhm.
breastfeeding, like up to 2 years or more. So I always just caution them against doing that because like then you just feel like, oh, my milk just dried up. And it's because you've been using this formula without replacing the feed. So the formula companies know that. And I think that's why they've gone so hard on
The
this
combo feed.
promotion of combo feeding.
Right.
Which I said, like, if you want a combo feed, then do it. But you need to know the truth about it. And also, you don't want to make that decision based on false claims.
Let's take a moment to talk about today's first sponsor, FRTIL. Have you been looking for the highest quality supplements that actually make a difference in your energy and overall being? Me too. And I finally found that in FRTIL. FRTIL offers multiple different supplements such as beef liver, zinc, vitamin C, and shilajit in their simplest, purest, most bioavailable form. Now, I've been taking beef liver for years and never really noticed a difference until I switched over to FRTIL. Just a few weeks into taking these, and I noticed a massive shift in my energy. Come to find out, FRTIL uses a freeze drying method to preserve and optimize overall effectiveness in all of their supplements. Something my old beef liver brand did not do. Go to their website, FRTIL, that's FRTIL, and try them out yourself. And don't forget to use my code Corinne10 for 10% off. That's KURIN 10. Details in the show notes.
So Bobby has really been pushing all these sort of tropes in their advertising. They even had an influencer the remember the trend with like the tiny violin, like the
Yeah.
meme, and
Yeah.
it said like when people say breastfeeding is best or something, and it was like the girl playing the tiny violin. And they've kind of fallen away recently in the like actual Bobby account. I mean, I'm blocked on everything, so I don't know, but like
They
people,
blocked you?
oh yeah, they've blocked all
Oh
of us on
my god.
everything. But
Oh my
people do send us stuff, and Bobby itself, the account, doesn't really post these things a lot anymore, but now they use
Right.
influencers and
Right. So
influencer
they're
marketing.
flooding all of the social media. Hmm.
Yeah, and we actually looked. There was this one video, I don't remember who the influencer was, but she had posted her day in the life with the Bobby, and Bobby account posted the same video. They must have like downloaded it and posted it and had like 120 likes or something. But then on the girls' account, it had thousands, like
Right.
20, thirty
Yeah.
thousand likes. So they're now leveraging influencers to sell their product. And they actually said they don't have to even do paid advertising. Like they turned off all paid advertising because these influencers are working so well. And they
Right.
actually even they're working so well that Bobby even had a formula shortage this summer and babies were unable to get fed.
Mm.
So that's another thing you have to watch out for when you're using formula for not like a necessity because you don't make enough. You're just using it willy-nilly. It's like your breast milk supply will go down and then possibly the
Oh,
brand now can't supply you formula. But
yeah.
so yeah, Bobby is just very problematic. So we decided instead of to just like shout into the void about it, to actually try to like do some activism around it.
I love it.
So like I said, my co-founder, Natasha, was a union organizer for 20 years. So she knows how to do this stuff and make change within large corporations. So yeah, we've done a plethora of different action items over the last 2 years. So I'm sure the one you were talking about, the one you saw was the Back Off Bobby, what we did
Yeah.
on August 1st,
Hmm.
which we had over 100 women pop out their boobs on August 1st, which is World Breastfeeding Day / week. And this is the second year we did it. And we just, last year we asked Bobby to stop bashing breastfeeding in their marketing.
Mhm.
Um, I think we tagged like the founder, Laura Modi. And this year we actually tagged their investors. So Bobby likes to pretend that they are like this super small mom owned
I was just gonna
business.
ask that. I was thinking, huh, it's interesting that the founder is a woman because a lot of the times the founders or the CEOs or whoever, it's always a man. So
Yeah.
go ahead and go into that.
Well, they started with this venture capital from all these different uh, you know, groups, investor groups. And when we looked up like who the investor groups were, it was all like male backed investors. So we actually like found the names of those investors and tagged them on the post this year for the Back Off Bobby for August 1st.
Hmm.
And that seemed to be pretty effective.
Amazing.
Recently, though, we actually, if you want me to get into this already, ask what else do you want to know about the whole thing before I move into something huge that just happened, though?
So when you did this most recent campaign, this is the first time I've seen it was this last August because
Okay.
there's a couple of influencers that I follow, specifically Allie Woods. She was a part of
Yeah.
it, and so she was the one that I saw. Were you guys asking to team up with women that you knew, or or was this part of your Substack where you guys were promoting it over there? Like, how were
Well,
you like
we
getting
just
involved?
yeah, we have lots of meetings where we invite women that might be interested to come and like hear the whole story of Bobby.
Love it.
And basically like what I've just gone through and all the tactics that they use, and just women, it's all moms, dude. Like it's just moms that care about this stuff, and it's amazing because this is all volunteer work. Like
I
we're
love it.
not you know what I mean? Like uh so it's just moms that have volunteered their time. We started as obviously it just started as me and Natasha, and then we had like it started as 7 women just meeting every 2 weeks, like, okay, what can we do? And then we just meet with more women and more women. It's just kind of like a big justice MLM.
I love it. I love
Where we
that.
just recruit more and more people because they care about the issues. And we talk to people like through this like podcasting and content online like you saw, and we just want to get more and more people involved. So we hold different like meetings where we explain what the deal is with Bobby and what we're trying to do.
Hmm.
So yeah, just like whoever wanted to pop their boob out could pop their boob out
I
on
love
August 1st.
Perfect. Amazing. Okay.
But
Yeah,
it's
go
not
ahead.
so it's not the end all be all though. Like our goal was to get Laura Mode to apologize publicly for bashing breastfeeding in her marketing. That was like our strategic goal.
Hmm.
And so that's not really where it ends though, because we also want to have formula be one of those things on social media that's like not allowed to be
Promote it.
monetized, just like tobacco or guns. Like you're not going to see an influencer be like, oh, I smoke this type of cigarette because it's unethical to promote something that affects public health. So like
Mhm.
um
Yeah. I mean, I can just
we can
say from an influencer standpoint, it's like I've been offered thousands to promote, and that's just one post, right? So if an influencer is doing if they have a long contract, they're getting
yeah.
paid thousands per post. It's not just one time. It is like thousands plus the free formula. And if for some reason that formula company is not paying them, because sometimes they won't pay you, they're still supplying you with the free formula, you know? So
Yeah,
it, and something you had said before of like, Bobby recently had a shortage. I never even thought about that,
I know.
with the babies that are needing this and are no longer able to get it because of these predatory tactics, moms
Yeah.
and moms are going out, Bobby buying it to keep it and then never use it or whatever it may be. I never even thought about how harmful that is. So I'm glad that you brought that point up. But
Yeah. So like just the unethical nature of formula advertising has a little bit of a history because there's something called the International Code of Breast Milk Substitutes,
Hmm.
which every single country besides the United States and New Zealand have adopted into law, which means it's against the law to advertise formula.
Right.
And that's because of something that happened in the 70s with Nestle, where they were dressing up as nurses and going to developing countries and offering this formula to communities that didn't have safe water
Mhm.
or enough money to continue buying the formula, and babies like starved and died, and it was like this huge scandal. It's called the Nestle formula scandal. And so they developed this code about advertising, and the US doesn't really follow the code, so that's why it's kind of unethical to be having this advertising, for the shortages. Obviously it's kind of like a mini version of Nestle. Is they advertised so well that they ran out of formula. It's
Right.
like a mini version. It affects babies' health on a global scale. Whether, I mean, that's an uncomfortable fact to say, like
Right.
formula affects babies' health, but it does when you look at it, and like millions of babies are getting this when maybe they don't necessarily need it. Um,
I mean,
so
I will
that's why
tell you that most don't need it.
yeah, I mean, there's a hell of a lot more people that are using it and don't need it than actually need it. So that's why we talk about this stuff, even though it can be a little uncomfortable. It's certainly not without controversy on social media to be talking about formula because it's a touchy subject. But like I said, it's really just about, we want women that want to breastfeed to be able to breastfeed. Like, this is getting in the way of that. This
Yeah.
is a direct barrier, whether you want to believe it or not. Like, if you're scrolling and you're seeing your favorite influencer who you love and trust, and like you see her promoting this product, you're like, oh, okay, like if she thinks that formula is good, then it must be good.
I mean,
Um,
like I said, even me, I'm constantly asked, what formula do you recommend?
yeah,
And I have been offered thousands of dollars to tell people this is what I would recommend, but I
yeah,
won't do that because I don't recommend any. How could I sit here and say I recommend formula when I'm so pro breastfeeding and I've never
yeah,
used formula myself, you know? So it
yeah,
is true
but
everything you're saying. Like, I know for a fact if I were to take a deal with any of the formula companies that have reached out to me, which are better because they are European standards, they're still full of seed oils, um, that my followers would purchase it. They would because they
yeah,
trust me.
yeah.
And that's
And
what's so hard.
the thing with By Heart we see a lot is, like you said, they are reaching out to people that didn't even use formula. We've seen
I have
influencers.
that are doing deals and they're breastfeeding mothers and they're doing these deals promoting the
Yeah,
combo feeding and stuff.
yeah,
I
it's hard.
Our skin is our biggest organ, which means it absorbs all the toxins we're exposing ourselves to every day. Because of this, I'm very mindful about the skincare and body care I use for myself. Osea formulates their skincare with seaweed because it's a superfood rich in vitamins, minerals, and nutrients. Different species of seaweed can provide a myriad of benefits, including anti-aging and moisturization. Osea sources their seaweed from different places around the world based on its high mineral content and then combines it with other naturally derived ingredients. Osea just launched their holiday bundles that include full-size items, which are the best deal you can get all year. Plus, if you use my code, you can get an extra 10% off on top of that. Use my code Corinne10, that's Kurin 10 for 10% off, or see the link in my show notes.
Hard
Time.
because I'm sure it's thousands of dollars. But like, it's kudos to you for like keeping your integrity, because
That's important to
I
me. It's
think
extremely important to me. I will
yeah,
not waver in that by any means.
yeah, because once you do break your integrity, you can't get it back, because your income as an influencer depends on the trust that you build with your community. So if you were to go and promote something that you didn't truly believe in, then you lose that trust. So it really doesn't make sense long term, even though like short term you might be like, ooh. Like
Right.
$5,000 for one
Yeah,
post.
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. But I mean, it's gone in an instant because you buy whatever you're wanting to buy, and then you just need more and more and more.
Yeah.
And that's why there's such a distrust in the influencer realm a lot of the
Yeah.
time.
So yeah, with By Heart, it's weird. We're seeing like um influencers that haven't breast or haven't formula fed, and then they get Bobby and By Heart likes to get IBCLCs or lactation consultants to do it too, which is completely against their code of ethics. Um, and they're not really supposed to be doing that, but that's also an old playbook kind of thing from back in the day where it's like doctor recommended. So of course
Right.
they're going to use
Right.
that line. So yeah, so the IBCLCs and stuff, which is a lactation consultant for those of you guys that don't know, that's definitely problematic, and we call that out too with the Radical Moms Union. We'll say like, hey, this is unethical for you to be promoting formula. And a lot of the influencers and other people that promote and do the ads are like, well, some people can't breastfeed and blah blah blah, and we're like, okay, great, you can talk about formula without taking their money. Like, let's
Mhm.
just do that instead.
Oh, wow.
um
That's great. Yeah, that's a good point.
so so like, yeah, we'd love for something bigger to happen with Instagram, but like I said, we're not done yet. So this most recent Bobby Back Off Bobby campaign that happened in August, like I said, we tagged the investors of the company, and that seemed to strike a chord
Hmm.
because Laura Modi reached out to us.
What?
Yeah, who's the CEO of
Whoa.
Bobby,
Okay.
and she reached out to us via another influencer, Carson. I don't know if you follow CC Meyer.
Mm-mm.
She participated in the Back Off Bobby
That's
campaign in August, and Laura Modi saw her and, reached out to her, who reached out to us.
mhm.
And yeah, we met with Laura Modi on
Wow.
Wednesday. Yeah.
What?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Are you able to share any of those details of what
Well,
happened?
it's really about, she didn't do much talking, I'll say. Um, but we do have a list of demands, like I said, that we want. Like I said, we want her to apologize. We want influencer marketing to cease. We want to get rid of influencer marketing.
Yeah.
So I don't know if one meeting we're going to accomplish all that. So, that's kind of the point of me being here,
Yeah,
is
of
to
course.
talk to you and your audience and anyone who wants to get involved, because we are moms. We don't have billions of dollars like a formula company to
Yeah.
promote breastfeeding, which is part of the problem. So we need more people. We're just moms, and the only thing we can give is time,
Yeah.
and obviously moms don't have a lot of time, so we need lots of moms
Yeah.
to
Give a
continue
little bit of time. Yeah.
fighting. Laura Modi, listened to the stories that were told about how this marketing affected her or affected them. Like, we had, moms that had low supply talking about like, look, I am your demographic for this, and
Mm.
I hate your marketing. It makes me feel shitty. We
Yeah.
had a mom whose baby died and said the only thing that helped my mental health was being able to pump.
Mhm.
So your messaging that says breastfeeding hurts your mental health, like, is harmful.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Absolutely.
she listened. She wasn't too keen on our demands, but that just means we have more work to do.
But how
um,
amazing is it though that she even met with you? Because a lot of the
yeah,
times they don't care. So that
absolutely.
is a huge step. So congratulations. Like,
Yeah,
this is a huge step for yeah, this movement.
yeah.
And
So yeah, we have, just like I said, a lot of work to be done. Like, if they are going to, agree to any of our demands, we have to set up systems in place to make sure they actually follow this. So that's where we kind of need more people, because it's not really just about Bobby either. It's about, like I said, the influencer formula market in general. And I wish there was some sort of like like we said, regulation or restriction on people being able to do it. So yeah, that's where we're at now. It's really exciting. I know I never thought we'd be like sitting at a meeting the with
Founder.
the founder.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah,
Wow. Okay. Well, I think that's amazing. And I've never really even thought, like, I have always thought, yes, it's very predatory for influencers to be promoting formula. I would never do it, although I've been offered multiple times. But now that you mentioned, like, a lot of these formula companies are actually targeting the breastfeeding mother, I'm
yeah,
angry
yeah,
because I am a breastfeeding mother. I talk about it all the time. None of my kids have ever had formula, and if you take like a 2-second glance at my page, you would know that. So the fact that these companies look through my TikTok, look through my Instagram, and they know that, I breastfeed my children, and they're like, "Okay, I want you to promote formula now." Like,
I
I'm
think
angry.
that's by design too, because they know your vibe and that you breastfeed, so they think they literally are targeting breastfeeding mom. We have a member who struggled with low supply and she runs breastfeeding grief circles. They
Hmm.
followed her. Like Bobby followed her. She has breastfeeding grief in her profile. So
Wow.
they actively like follow people who struggle with breastfeeding. So yeah, it's very predatory. I think they
And
do target certain individuals who are more crunchy or natural minded, knowing that they're going to get that right demographic.
And the root of all of this is money.
Oh
Like
yeah,
that's all it is. And, it's to make rich people richer. They don't
yeah,
care about our mental health.
no,
They don't care about our physical health. They don't care about intact families. They don't care about intact breastfeeding relationships. It is straight up greed.
yeah. It's for profit. So while we understand that like people have to use formula, we just don't want people profiting off of like your vulnerabilities and like your
Mhm.
insecurities as a mom. Like as you're scrolling and you're like, ooh, maybe I do need to supplement. And it's like, oh, well, this influencer uses it. And I
Yep.
guess it's okay. So like they are actively like profiting off of like you questioning yourself.
Right, like in those really, really vulnerable first few days, especially as a first-time mom, but usually every single first, week postpartum is so vulnerable. It's so hard. Your baby is cluster feeding like crazy, and you're worried that they're not getting enough, and you're
Mhm.
scrolling and you're like, oh my gosh, this is my answer. And right then and there, it's like basically done for
Oh
you.
yeah. Cause we've all been like scrolling at night in the middle of the night feeds and you're like just
Yes.
buying whatever is gonna get your baby to sleep, whether it be a swaddle or some noise machine or some gas drops and then
Right? Because you're
you know
exhausted and you're like,
yeah,
I need to do something, you
yeah,
know? I just kind of want to talk about like the vicious supplementation cycle, just for my audience who's listening who may be like, what is the issue with supplementing or combo feeding when it's not needed, especially in those very delicate first days? I get a lot of first time moms asking me, my baby's eating all of the time. How do I know if they're getting enough? And if they're in the hospital, they're always offered the formula, or like
yeah.
in the case we were just talking about on TikTok, you scroll, you see your favorite influencers promoting Bobby, By Heart, Kendamil, whatever, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna get this. Like, what I want my audience to understand is like, yes, absolutely, there are times where supplementation may be needed, but I always, always tell people, please, please, please hire an in-home lactation counselor first, right, to help you
Yeah.
troubleshoot. But also with that supplementation cycle, something that you had mentioned before is like, if you are going to supplement, just know that you need to be replacing that feed to keep your supply going. Because what happens is when you're supplementing your baby with formula, they're full, right? They get full and they're not having those hunger cues. which cluster feeding is, bringing all of that good milk in. Your babies are supposed to do that. And so what's going to happen is your baby gets full. They're not having the hunger cues. You're getting a break because you're tired. Your nipples hurt. You don't want to do
Yeah.
the cluster feeding. And then there's missed opportunities to be bringing that milk in, right? So
Yeah.
then your supply dwindles down because in those first, really delicate couple of weeks, I would say, what is it, like 6 to 12 weeks that are super, super prime for building your supply.
Yeah.
It's very, very, very crucial that you are feeding your baby as much as they want to be fed. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're starving. It's just what they're supposed to do, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of moms just get anxiety, especially in the first couple of days with like cluster feeding before the mature milk comes in.
Yes.
With the colostrum, it's like, oh my God, I don't know. Because in the hospital, they're going to give you that like 2 ounce
Yep.
bottle of formula. If
Massive.
you
That
really look,
stretches tummy.
yeah, if you really look at what a newborn stomach is and how much colostrum, like they really should be taking on the first day, like a teaspoon of colostrum
Yes.
a feed. So that compared to like a 2 ounce bottle is just insane. So it messes with your head and you think, oh, I don't have enough. So there
And
needs
just,
to be like,
for everyone to know, like colostrum is milk.
yes,
Milk. It's just not the mature milk. Colostrum is still milk. And I think a lot of people, even that verbiage of like, oh, my milk hasn't come in yet, is
yeah.
also kind of predatory and confusing to mothers. I had one of my closest friends was not successful breastfeeding her son. And then she had another baby. And during her pregnancy, I'm trying to give her all the information I can to help her be successful because she really wanted to breastfeed. And she was like, Corinne, I didn't know that colostrum was milk. And I thought, those first couple of days when you're waiting for your milk to come in, your baby's not eating anything.
Yeah, a lot of people think that, I think, because like I see in comment sections like, so you're just supposed to starve your baby for four
Right?
days? And I'm like, no, like you're not starving them. They're just not, it's just a different type of milk.
Yes.
And if you go into it with no knowledge on how to tell if your baby is eating, and how
No.
to tell if they're getting milk, then you're just going to be anxious and not understand. Like I was like, I was looking down at my daughter, like I'm just supposed to like trust that she's getting milk. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, so I think education is a super important part of it. I have a breastfeeding course myself that I
Awesome.
run with women, and like that's one of the main tenets is learning how to tell when your baby is eating versus when they're not eating. And like just because they're latched on and sucking doesn't mean they're eating. So it can be tricky too. So, you have to watch diapers, you have to pay attention to how they act. You have to pay attention to how it feels. Is it painful? Is it pinchy? Is it just, you know, does it feel good? And yeah, it can be tricky the first couple weeks. So I do understand why moms just have anxiety and just turn to supplementing, because a lot of times the doctors, like if you're just going to a pediatrician, they don't have a
Yep.
lot of tools in their toolbox. They're like, oh, well, here you go, supplement. They should just refer to a lactation consultant. Like that's what they should do.
I was gonna say, so that's an entire other beast because I
Yeah.
cannot tell you how many. It's not even first time moms. It's a lot of the time it is, but like even second, third, fourth times moms will come to me and say, Corinne, I just went to the pediatrician. My baby has lost weight.
Yeah.
And the pediatrician is telling me to supplement with formula. What do I do? I was told to supplement with formula on day 3 with my son, and I didn't. But I left that appointment crying. I
Yeah.
was so defeated because the pediatrician was like, I know that you crunchy moms
Oh
don't
my God.
want to hear the F word. And I'm sitting here thinking, I'm the postpartum brain.
What a
She's very
jerk.
mad about my decisions. And I'm sitting here like, F word? What are you talking about, F word? And then she goes, formula. You need to supplement with 1 ounce of formula before you feed him. Before. And I was just so distraught. And I did not end up doing it. Thank the Lord, I had a seasoned mother that was coaching me as a first time mom who I texted and I was like, Mariah, help me. They're telling me to supplement. She's like, keep the baby at the breast and watch his diapers. And that's all I needed to do. And so
Yeah.
that's the whole other beast is like these pediatricians are not lactation consultants. They don't
No.
have the training. And like you said, it should be an automatic referral. Should be an automatic referral instead of, yep, just do formula because they are part of the problem. That scares moms. I was scared. I was terrified when I was told that. And that could have right there ruined my first breastfeeding journey. It could have.
And moms trust their pediatrician to like, tell them what to do. So it's just upsetting that they don't have like the proper lactation training, or like there's like 100 different things you could do before just starting formula if your baby is
Yeah.
struggling to gain weight. So it's just unfortunate that moms like fall into that trap, because yeah, like you said, when you supplement in the first couple of days, it's like then it's telling your body not to make
Yes.
milk. So
Yes.
definitely, if your doctor says that, try to get in with an actual lactation consultant and see. But hopefully you'll have the education beforehand, so you'll know the signs,
Yes.
so you'll know what to watch out for.
Please, yes, that's another thing I always tell people is like, please invest in an in-home. I prefer in-home because when you're newly postpartum, it is so hard to get yourself out of the house. And also when you're in your own environment, it's a lot easier for them to help you because you're in your bed or you're in your
Yeah.
nursing care or you have your boppy, you have all of the things that you need. It's a lot easier that way. So I always tell people, please invest in in-home or even just online. Like my lactation counselor, she does online stuff too when needed. um
Hmm.
do a prenatal do a prenatal
Yeah.
breastfeeding class or a course like you're saying, um in order to be educated before you go into this. Because yeah, I mean there are so many roadblocks that are in our way when it comes to American women and other countries as well, but trying to breastfeed when we have this monster of the formula companies that are trying to get you to purchase their product. So, yeah, I mean, it begins at education. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, we don't need to get into this too much. I don't know how much time we have left, but it's also like these women that are birthing in hospitals, which I had both my kids in hospitals and I breastfed both of them, but it does make it a lot harder
Yes.
to start breastfeeding if you've had like this awful traumatic birth. I think that's part of the problem. Um,
There's already a
where,
disconnect there. Yeah, I mean, I go into that as well, even as far as to say if you've had IV fluids, your baby is
yeah,
actually born with an artificial weight. And so when they're born, they're peeing out all of
the
the
fluids.
fluids
Yeah.
that you were pumped with. I was on Pitocin and induced with my son, my first baby. And so what seems like a dramatic weight loss is actually not what it seems. He's just peeing out all of the fluids that he was pumped with while I was in
Yeah.
labor. So he's born with a weight that actually would not have been his weight if I had not even just been on IV fluids. So it's like there's just so much that goes into that whole weight loss and worry. And like you said,
Well,
traumatic
it's
births.
with the birthing system and the pregnancy care that women are getting. Like I said in the beginning, it's already, don't trust your body. Your body's going to hurt your baby. It starts right in pregnancy, right? All this testing, all this, oh, we got to do this test. We got to do a non-stress test. We got to induce you. You got to do this, do that, like to try to, oh, your baby, you're not going to go into labor by yourself. Your body doesn't work. It's just like this subliminal messaging that is like telling women their body doesn't work. So it's like, well, why would my body work with breastfeeding if it's not going to work with everything else? And then, of course, if you do get the traumatic birth and you've like been through the ringer, it's like learning to feed your baby
The last thing you
is
want.
that much harder.
Yeah, you don't have the
So
capacity for it at that point.
yeah. So that's a problem too. Um, I do have this free guide. I'll send you the link to put in the show notes
Amazing.
about like if you
Yeah.
are having a hospital birth, like all the interventions and how they can affect, like you talked about the fluids, but I have
Beautiful.
like all the interventions and how it can affect, but then how you can like mitigate the effects. So I'll send you that.
Yes, I would
Yeah, it's
love.
a lot of barriers.
Yeah.
And I talk about them all, I'm not just like it's formula advertising, it's hospital birth, it's, maternity leave and all that, and like
Well,
society's
that's a
obsession
huge
with
one.
separating a mom and baby. So it's a lot of stuff. So um yeah, I enjoy advocating for it. I loved breastfeeding. I
Mm.
loved um that's the reason I became a lactation counselor. I wasn't one of those ones that had like this horrible experience and like got through into it. I just love breastfeeding. I don't know. I think it's amazing. I just stopped breastfeeding my son. He's going to be 5.
Hmm.
Um, my daughter breastfed till 2.5. She's 8. Um, so yeah, I just love it. That's why
I'm in the same boat. I'm in the
yeah.
same boat. I'm at 11 months with my third baby right now. She's 11 months today. So, and I just
Uh-huh.
cannot imagine this chapter like ever coming to a close. I'm like,
I
oh
know it's
my
hard.
God, thinking about that. But I have also, like my own story, I have always been a just enougher. I have never been the one to have an oversupply. Of course, in the beginning, you always have a lot of extra milk. And I think, again, education can help with that because when your milk supply starts to regulate, people think, oh, my supply is going down. It's like, no, actually, it's just regulating. But
Yeah.
like with my son, my body does not like to feed a baby and grow a baby at the same time. So I ended up getting pregnant at about 9 months postpartum, and I went through a miscarriage, and that completely killed my supply. It was gone,
Oh,
like nothing. And that was one of the hardest things I've ever been through. So I am very, very pro breastfeeding, and a lot of people might view me as like, oh, you've just had easy journeys. That's not the truth. I lost my supply at nine
yeah.
months postpartum. Horrid, one of the hardest things I've ever been through. And so instead of doing formula, I did donor milk. So I'm also a really big advocate for if you can find a donor using donor milk. And I think, there's a lot of people are, get a little bit scared about that. But that is an option for supplementation as well. And then I
Yeah.
think, like, something you might have been alluding to earlier is like you can supplement with your own breast milk. Like
Yeah.
I have told people reaching out to me, like, hey, that you can pump and give your baby that milk as supplementation as well. Like, have
Yeah.
a freezer stash going or whatever. Like, it doesn't always, supplementation doesn't always have to equal formula. And,
Hmm.
same thing happened with my daughter. I ended up getting pregnant when she was, I think, 14. No, she was 13 or 14 months, and my supply went away completely with her. But she didn't care. She was done, and we were past
Yeah.
that mark, so I didn't do anything about it. But I mean, I have not had easy breastfeeding journeys. And with my daughter Florence, she in the beginning was the hardest breastfeeding journey. As far as pain goes, I ended up having to get a tongue tie revision, which I did not want to do in order to save her
Yeah.
breastfeeding journey. So, everything that I say when it comes to me being so passionate about breastfeeding is not coming from a mom who has had an easy journey with any of her children by any means, and I think just a lot of education is so, so necessary. If you want to do this, if you want to breastfeed your baby, then unfortunately, you need to
Yeah.
be putting in work to figure out how to do it. And we need to be better at supporting and sharing this information, which is why I was so excited to have you on because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is right up my alley and perfect. So,
Thank you. I love this. I feel like I was a just enougher too, but
mhm.
I never knew
Yeah.
because I didn't see these people on TikTok pumping like 40 ounces in one sitting.
Oh my
Like, it's
gosh.
insane. Like,
Yeah.
people think, oh, I pumped 4 ounces. I have a low supply. I'm like, no, that's like a normal supply.
Yep.
That's like, I don't think I ever pumped more
That's a lot
than,
for me. I mean, if I pump, I'm lucky to get like 2 ounces, and that's also
yeah.
very, very normal for
Yep.
a breastfeeding mother. And I love to share that as well. Like once in a while, I'll pump if Florence is just not wanting to feed, and I'm always talking about ways to protect your supply. Even at 11 months postpartum, I'm like, I'm always looking for ways to protect my supply, and that will be a hand pump sometimes. And then I like to show people on Instagram, hey, just letting you know, this 2 ounces, that's perfect. It's fine.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, because I didn't see all that. So I probably would have thought I had a low supply had I
right.
seen. that stuff.
Without education, I would absolutely believe that I have low supply. So I think
Yeah.
that's the other thing that I just hate about the formula feeding industry is the fact that like most of the time they will top out at 8 ounces, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we compare this 8 ounce bottle with
Yeah.
our 2 ounce pump. And we're sitting here thinking, oh my gosh, my baby needs 8 ounces because that's what formula feeding babies get. And so it's just so confusing. And this is
Yeah.
like,
It's a bit of a shock.
yes, it's not
Like,
off to people who need it because obviously that's how formula works. They have to have more. And just, it's just so, it just breaks my heart when I see mothers, comparing that and then being so frustrated and scared, And it's like,
yeah.
no, the contents of your breast milk changes. It's perfect. Like, you don't need that much. You don't need incrementally more. Like, you get to a point where it's regulated. So, it's just
Yeah. I
so
know. It's all part of the culture.
right.
Like, I remember buying the big bottles with my first
Yeah,
baby, and
I did too. I did. I
it
bought
is
the
kind of
little
like,
bottles.
it just messes with your head. Because I had come from like feeding my little sister's formula. Like,
Yeah,
I
I was
remember
a
just
nanny and
filling
I
up
did
the
formula.
whole bottle.
Yes, I was a nanny for families and I did formula bottles. And so that's all I knew too.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me on. This was so fun. We could talk for
Oh my
another
God.
hour, probably.
We could talk about the sleep training
I
industry.
know.
I'm gonna have to have you back on so we can
Yeah.
go into more of the separation of mother baby because that is so I'm so passionate about
Yeah. Yeah.
all of this. So, yeah, thank you so much for reaching out to me. I was so excited to
Yeah.
have you on. And then one more time, if you could just tell my audience where they can find you if they want to check out everything you're advocating for.
So my Instagram is at instinctual mothering, and then Radical Moms Union, who's Natasha, my co-founder, is at radical_moms_union.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and put all of that in the show notes for everybody who is interested in checking out your guys' work and hopefully getting involved as well. But yeah, thank you again so much for coming on, Andrea. It
You're
was
welcome.
just so amazing. And I hope that this episode is super helpful and kind of opens up people's eyes to this whole world. So, yeah.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to get involved in Radical Moms Union, just follow the account. We have a lot of, we have meetings going on. I don't know when this will come out, but like we have meetings where we kind of tell people all the info and how to get involved.
Okay, amazing.
All right.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again. It was awesome getting to talk to you.
Thank you.
And that concludes today's episode. If you found value in this conversation or resonate with it in any way, I'd love for you to leave me a review on whatever platform you're listening in on and share about it on social media. Your support means the world. For more content like this, you can follow me at Corinne Adele on all platforms. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next week.